We're kicking things off tonight with a look at the continued crumbling of the small newspaper landscape in Oregon. There's just no way to sugarcoat it. Things are not good. And whether you live in a big or small community, it's going to affect you. And that's our big story tonight. Sad to say it, but some big changes are on the way for Oregon's news landscape. This week, we learned that 2 major local news companies are being sold. Journalists have been laid off, and 5 newspapers are eliminating their print editions. On Monday, Pamplin Media announced that they were sold to a company out of Mississippi called Carpenter Media Group. Pamplin-owned newspapers serve communities across the state. They include the Portland Tribune, Beaverton Valley Times, the Hillsborough Tribune, the Gresham Outlook, the Newburgh Graphic, and the Madras Pioneer. Most of them published once or twice a week, and according to Pamplin Media, they brought the news to more than 1 million readers every week. The combined staff is 200. The company was owned for 25 years by Robert Pamplin Jr., but he says he decided to sell because of age and health reasons. He's 82 years old. Carpenter Media says they intend to serve communities with excellent local journalism. Then, just hours after that announcement, on Monday, we learned another big Oregon media company was going up for sale. EO Media owns 12 newspapers across the state. They include the Bend Bulletin, the East Oregonian, the Astorian, and others. They had actually expanded some of those papers in the last few years. We did a big profile last year on the Rogue Valley Times in Medford. At the time, things actually seemed pretty optimistic. 6 months after opening, they had expanded their staff, worked hard on some big investigations, and doubled the size of their paper.
This is one of the marquee intersections in downtown Medford. And as we were outgrowing our first office, which is 3 blocks from here, it was really important to us to stay in the heart of downtown. You can like literally feel how much heavier and bigger the paper is between these two.
But that was then. Now, a year later, things are changing. The Rogue Valley Times is going from 3 print editions a week down to 2. Other papers are also reducing their print editions. Some will not be printing at all. They're going to be all online. Some papers will be consolidated. EO Media says all print subscribers of 5 smaller newspapers in Eastern Oregon will now only get the East Oregonian, which will now be the lone paper for all of Northeast Oregon. 28 employees across the state were already laid off on Monday, and next month another 19 will have their hours reduced, we're told. And the company is now looking for a new owner. EO Media says postal rates have climbed, healthcare costs are soaring, and the ad money has fallen. That's a bad combo. Local news outlets across the country are facing the same problem. So, what to do about it? Today we talked with a nonprofit organization working on some solutions. Rebuild Local News works on developing public policies to try and save local news organizations across the country. When we've talked about smaller news shops closing down, we've often said, hey, support them, go subscribe to your local paper. According to the president, Steve Waldman, that is only a start.
Newspapers in other parts of the country that have cut back on their reporting staffs and then asked people to subscribe are essentially asking people to pay more for a worse product. And that's not going to work either. So I think news organizations need to invest in the publications to make them better cover the community. And then, yeah, the community should subscribe to it. There are other ways of supporting local news in addition to subscribing. You can donate to nonprofit local news organizations, and even for-profit news organizations are increasingly setting up philanthropic divisions. And you can, if you're a small business, advertise in local news. You can also support public policy in the state.
All right, well, so what does that mean, that public policy thing? Let's take a look. There's been some effort on that front in the past few years, but mostly it's not taken off. Here in Oregon in 2023, the legislative session, a bill would have paid for grants for local news. It would have also established a work group on the state of local journalism with policy recommendations. An early draft of the bill also would have provided a state tax credit for donating or subscribing to local news. Unfortunately, the bill died in committee, but Waldman says those kinds of efforts actually can work.
Illinois and New York just passed something that is very promising. It's a It's a refundable tax credit. Really, it's a subsidy for newsrooms that retain local reporters or hire local reporters. The Illinois bill actually had a bigger tax credit for hiring and expanding local reporting staff. So that creates a good set of incentives. You get more if you're expanding your coverage of your community, you get less if you're contracting it. Another idea is tax credits or grants to small businesses that advertise in local news. It's a really interesting bank shot that is supporting both sides of the economic, kind of contract that supports local news. You're helping small businesses, restaurants and grocery stores, but you're also helping local media.
That is an interesting idea. Another option gaining momentum, nonprofit news organizations.
Unlike a newspaper that's owned by a big chain, they don't have to generate 20% profit. They just have to break even and serve the community. So that makes it easier right from the start. And the other thing they have going for them is that they can supplement the traditional revenue streams of advertising and subscriptions or donations with philanthropy, with grants from foundations or donations from philanthropists. And that is often enough to put it over the top if you're running it as a well-run business.
A bunch of interesting ideas there. And now we want to hear from you. How do you feel about the state of local news? Do you subscribe to your local paper? I subscribe to 3. Are you willing to support policy changes or donate to nonprofit news outlets? Send us your thoughts, will you? The address is thestory@kgw.com or call and leave us a voicemail. The number is 503-226-5090.